Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Arcane Assist. I'm Tim, joined today by Evan. How's it going, Evan?
I'm good.
Sweet. Today we're playing some GRYMKIN versus SKORNE. And with a fan request, we are playing the SKORNE Disciples of Agony list.
Yeah, I've been humming and hawing over this list for ages now and finally just kind of trimmed it down to what I think is one of the best options for it, though it's really hard to say considering how many options just are in that list. Like, there's so much untapped potential that I think is going to take a very long time for Disciples of Agony to have like a list or two that's really good in it, just because of how many things are really good in it.
Yeah, and to add complexity to that, you're playing Morghoul3, who I think is a really deep caster with an enormous toolkit. Do you want to go over your list really quickly?
For sure. So the list mostly just brings a ton of tools to bear. It's kind of a jack of all trades. It's supposed to be able to take on whatever I happen to be facing up against. So it's Morghoul3 with his battle group of a Blackhide Wrastler, a Blind Walker, the Cyclops Shaman, a Titan Gladiator, and an Archidon. So a mix of Gator Warbeasts and SKORNE Warbeasts, which is really cool because I get an Arc Note out of the Blind Walker, as well as the only thing Morghoul really doesn't have in his toolkit to begin with, which is a damage buff through Rage.
Yeah. Lots of armor cracking in that battle group.
So I also have a Mortitheurge Willbreaker, Paingiver Taskmaster to help with the Gatorman, Bokor, and Bog Trog Swamp Shamblers, which are really great because they're amazing sack bond targets when you give them tough and no sleeping on the job. You have 2 units of Min Beast Handlers, the standard package for handling how many war beasts I have, and unit Nihilators, because Morghoul3 loves them Nihilators.
So you're not taking advantage of the ambush blood runners in this theme force, but you do have a fairly well-rounded list that's got a lot of... Like, it's got some anti-shooting tech in stealth on your caster and sack pawn for your caster and for your beast handlers. Fairly durable battle group, but no Kreia. So you're not really like an anti-gunline list per se, but then you've got good armor cracking and pretty good infantry clearing, I'd say.
Yeah, it's got a mix of things. You got a lot of good infantry clearing with Nihilators in the feet. You have decent armor cracking with Rage on both an Archidon or whatever heavy war beast you need it to at the time. The Shaman brings a ton of utility in being able to cast the Animi where you don't want to with the heavies or with Morghoul. And he also can use Rites of Power to become an Arc Node himself, so you don't have to give up the Blind Walker if you want to cast one spell, much like you would a normal Crix like Arc Node. You can instead do it with the Shaman.
Right. Nice. Seems really strong. Okay. To counter that, or really just because it's what I wanted to feature today, and we don't really try to tech against one another's lists, I have brought the Old Witch. And this is the first time that you've seen the fully painted Old Witch model in one of our battle reports. This time I'm bringing her with GRYMKIN, because I wanted to finish off showing all of the GRYMKIN casters on the channel. We will be playing her at some point in the near future with Kador, so send us your list ideas. I'm playing her in the GRYMKIN Bump in the Night theme force. My free solos, of which I get 3 for the number of units that I've taken, are Eilish Garrity, the Occultist, and a Glimmer Imp, and Lord Longfellow. My units are 2 units of Hollowmen, both with unit attachments, the Lantern Keepers, 2 units of Nayslayers, all units maxed, and the Twilight Sisters. For my battle group, I have a Cage Rager and 2 Rattlers, in addition to a Frightmare. This list is inspired heavily, if not lifted directly, from one of the versions that Pat Dunford has been testing. I think it's a really, really strong list. I played it a few times, and I like a lot of the things that it's about. I find Old Witch an enormously flexible caster. She's got kind of a tool for every job and can be quite survivable. I don't have a death knell on this list, in deference to the notion that playing 2 huge bases can be really challenging, and as a result, my list is kind of shaped up to be a bit of a disposable gun line with 2 units of Hollowmen.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts about this list is that typically people think, oh, you do the -1 to spell costs and you can balance charge 7 heavies, where in this case, you can balance charge an entire unit of Nayslayers.
You sure can. That's absolutely a thing. A 13-inch threat on Nayslayers is really terrifying. And, I mean, if you supplement that with something like Curse of Shadows, they can really get an enormous amount of work done.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's both the lists and a good rundown of them, so let's head on into the game.
So we rolled off, and GRYMKIN won the die roll. So I begin by apparating my units of Hollowmen. Got the Kadoran Hollowmen on the bottom, some Kadoran traitors. The worst. Who would abandon the motherland? And some Menite Hollowmen on the bottom. The worst. Who would abandon the wall? The gifts of Menoth. The kindness he's given us. The law. The shelter. The love.
I don't know. Seems mediocre.
Yeah, fair enough. There are no Signar deserters because Signar. So I'm going to activate the Rattler first. He's just going to run on up. I debate putting him in the zone or not. I decide that ultimately I want him in the zone so he's got line of sight to more things. I can always boundless charge him if I need Pathfinder. And we're going to activate the Nayslayers next, running up behind that building. Again, big thanks to Ian, a local member of our gaming community who designed this graveyard-themed terrain set. Sort of a festive thing. We're recording games in October, so we figured why not show off some of this cool graveyard set. It's got a couple of rubble patches with gravestone markers that are removable so you can still play all of your pieces on the rubble. Got some spooky trees, autumnal trees no less. They've all of their leaves fallen off. And then that obstruction centrally placed is a nice little sarcophagus.
Along with like the two walls that are just spiky.
Yeah, they've got like a fenced-in graveyard kind of vibe. I really dig them.
Yeah.
They've also got like these really nice like rose bushes growing on them, but some of the roses are actually skull faces.
What?
Yeah, look closer at those walls.
I did
sometime.
not. Oh my god, that's
creepy.
terrifying.
Yeah. So and yeah, he's got like some weathered brass on the tops of that obstruction on the top and everything like that. It's a nice looking terrain set. I'm really into it. So Old Witch, boundless charge herself, boundless charge a Cage Rager, and put up reconstruct on a Cage Rager. Pardon me, respawn. Ain't no reconstruct in this faction.
Uh-huh.
The Hollowmen top ran to flank pretty hard. They're hoping to pick off a bunch of Nihilators with their turn. Cage Rager charged a little bit obliquely on one of the Nihilators just to get a little bit of extra threat range. And this unit of Hollowmen will run just slightly off camera. They're basically forming up the same way the other Hollowmen are on the other side, able to kind of collapse in and take a bunch of really relevant shots. And the Frightmare runs up next to the Rattler. And that is GRYMKIN turn 1, save for the Twilight Sisters who I deploy so that they can kind of return models to either unit of Hollowmen by just making an advance, having their range there.
So, the way Tim's positioned so aggressively on turn 1 really forces me to have to plan out my turn as to not lose just swaths of models to whatever he brings out, because I can't get too close to the Nayslayers or else they'll peel a heavy off the table. I don't want to give him I don't want to give him heavy war beasts to the Hollowmen, because that's bad. And typically in a game like this, my defense against guns is using an arc node to blind an entire unit, and then they can't shoot me. Unfortunately, Hollowmen have eyeless sight.
Little known feature of eyeless sight, it gives you immunity to blind. That is new in Mark III.
Yeah, so really the only things I can blind in this list are the Nayslayers and Old Witch, because it's not worth... I can blind some war beasts if need be, but typically it's not worth blinding things like solos.
That makes blind a fairly offensive spell for you rather than a defensive spell, because most of the things you can blind can shake the effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Nihilators move up to kind of clog up the top zone. They're getting in position to basically table those Hollowmen. I know they're going to get shot to pieces, but I don't need a lot of them to survive in order to take basically the entire unit of Hollowmen. I think if 4 or 3 of them survive, I get rid of the unit of Hollowmen, and if Tim's not careful with the Nayslayers, I take half that unit too.
Yep. Yeah, those Nihilators have an enormous amount of potential to kill things.
Yeah, Berserk and Overtake is a combination. With this Blind Walker, I was originally measuring to see if I could rush it, trample 10 inches, and then blind a unit of Nayslayers. They were about an inch and a half out.
Pro skill right there. Just me positioning super well, thinking about all of those variables and really accounting for it.
Yeah. So in order to ease some positioning here, as well as save some fury, I'm not going to run the Shaman. He's just going to move up and craft Talisman so Morghoul can cast Mirage on the Nihilators. Makes them even more likely to get into positions they want for the Berserk Overtake spree that they're going to have next turn. Hopefully, if they don't get shot to death. Archidon runs into the rubble. I'm feeling pretty safe there. The biggest thing about this turn is positioning in such a way that Tim doesn't just use Old Witch's blind gun to like just disable huge parts of my army, because I don't want it to drift onto Morghoul or one of his attendants.
It can't drift, but the thing you'd be a little bit concerned about is me casting the Frightmare's Animus
Correct.
to ignore stealth and shooting Morghoul or one of his attendants.
Because second big thing that's defensive tech for Morghoul against gun lines, he has Occultation and Stealth on himself, but Isle of Sight also ignores those things.
Yeah, it's True Sight, I think, or See in the Dark is the Animus. It's not quite Isle of Sight, but it's very close to it.
So, moving some things up, Morghoul puts Mirage on that unit. I also occultate the Shaman just so you can't shoot your blind gun and clip Morghoul with it.
Yep. It would be very expensive for me to do so at the very least.
Yeah. I debate where to move the Gladiator super far forward, but I decide putting him behind the wall is probably the best bet and just use him for a rush bot in the early stages of the game and use him as a beater later on when I need a heavy. Beast Handlers are just going to move up, fill some gaps, be ready to enrage and prod the next turn. The entire unit of Shamblers I typically in this list will place against, with the Nihilators so that they collect all their corpses as they advance. However, I feel like in this against this list, they need to be used as purely sack-bond targets so I don't lose my 2 Escorts and I don't lose just both units of Beast Handlers to Hollowman shots. And it's not the ideal use for them, but it is a good use for them in this list thanks to the theme benefits.
Yeah, those theme benefits really change the way that a lot of beasts and a lot of units that exist in minions in a specific role perform in this list. Like, the way that you can use the Blindwalker versus the way that Caliban uses the Blindwalker is really different. Kind of transformative. And the casters available to this theme force aren't your traditional spell-slinging casters like a Caliban or a Jaga Jaga. Like, they really feel like they needed kind of different sort of support role for it. I don't know. My favorite thing that Privateer Press ever does is take rules that exist somewhere else in the game and you've kind of like solved what they're about and turn them on their head and make them something completely different somewhere else. And I feel like Disciples of Agony does that better than a lot of theme lists do.
Yeah. So, I've moved up. I've given the minion unit Tough with the Taskmaster. I put down the token for Mirage because I didn't earlier. And I put down the token for Occultation because I didn't earlier. The Willbreaker actually moved up and gave Morghoul and his unit Tough purely because he had nothing else to do. I guess I could have given Tough to a unit of Beast Handlers, but this seems... I'm a little bit more worried about losing an Escort than I am losing a Beast Handler.
That's fair. I kind of excitedly jump in on a plan early in this turn that involves Old Witch blinding a Beast Handler who's just in the AoE 4 to clip and blind the Archidon. And then I'm thinking, I'll blind the Archidon and I'll Curse of Shadows the Archidon and we'll kill him with Hollowman. So I opt for rerolls on my battle group. I actually debate feeding here to also reduce the cost on things by 1 and just have a couple more to camp, should I say. But decide that I'm probably in a pretty safe spot for camping. She hits. The reason I thought rerolls were really important is because I do need to roll an 11 there, and I'd much rather the 50-50 with 2 cracks at it. I blind most of a unit of Beast Handlers, and I also blind the Archidon, dropping its defense against ranged attacks down to 14. Which means I can hit with Hollowman on some CRAs. I say I jump into this plan really quickly. I do forget to apparate the 2 units of Hollowman. It would have been nice because I might have been able to get a couple more in on the Archidon shots here, but ultimately it's a salvageable plan. I opt not to Curse of Shadows because looking at the board and looking at the position of that Wrastler, I decide I want to camp the 3. I feel like with a 3 camp and my base stat line of Arm 19, I should be pretty safe here. So that's Old Witch's move. Hollowmen come up here. They advance their 5 inches. A couple of them don't get into range, so I have to make a 3-person CRA and 2 2-person CRAs with the 7 of them who get in.
Yep.
So here we go. First one hits. So the 3-person CRA does a reasonable chunk of damage. Dice off 2 to 6.
Yep. The second 2 CRAs miss.
Yeah, so that's too bad. But I got the Frightmare left to go. Frightmare moves up into range, and it boosts an attack roll. It's a member of the battle group, so it can reroll failed attack rolls. So it misses its first attack, rerolls and hits. Boost damage. The blinded Archidon. And it just cranks the damage. Yep, so thank you, Frightmare. Appreciate your efforts. Salvaged the Holloman apparition mistake. So I'm still a little above expectation on damage, and I've got the something of a backup plan that is that Rattler charging. I looked to see if there's a position where the Rattler could charge and then berserk into a bunch of beast handlers, but there really isn't. So instead I opt to berserk to max range, or pardon me, overtake back to max range, and hit with the charge attack, and just ace the Archidon. Just kill him.
Yep, and then you back up a bit and put up countercharge.
Yeah, so that's his Animus, still as death. Lets me have countercharge. So just, again, assuming that that's one more thing Evan has to deal with. Still as death will let me countercharge if he does decide to send in the Blackhide Wrastler on the Old Witch. And, I mean, it's just one charge attack, but it's still, it's something. Could do a thing. I'm expecting to maybe take a couple hits, so I put the Twilight Sisters in position to heal Old Witch next turn, so she's not in a losing position. Eilish Garrity throws Puppet Master over to this unit, and he teleports back into range to still be casting spells on Old Witch cause D3 damage. Unit of Nayslayers move over. They're now in position to possibly charge a Blackhide Wrastler that I expect to not kill my Old Witch. If not, they can threaten most of this zone right now, and she can boundless charge them and back off a little bit, or feat to return some models. All right, so now I'm looking at this Rattler here and thinking maybe I should have had a better plan for him. If instead on this turn I'd put the Witch a little bit more centrally, not gone quite as deep on the Archidon plan, I'd have been able to have that Rattler in my control area. Instead I decide he's just going to charge out of control, he's going to do as many berserk attacks as he can, and he's going to stall out at some point in that group of Nihilators. And he's not going to get the rerolls, which is too bad because that's, I think, one of the strongest things of this list is rerolls on the Rattlers. And he's not going to be able to buy attacks. But he was in control to force for the charge, which he does before he moves. And he can still make a ton of attacks.
Yep. You did shoot one of the Nihilators with Lord Longfellow before you went on
I think Longfellow actually shot 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swift hunted a little bit back and was on that flag.
So Rattler is just going to mulch a lot of these Nihilators.
I was actually kind of hoping that Lord Longfellow would have the Nihilator tough, so the Rattler would have a guaranteed first Berserk to kind of dig him in a little deeper, because I'm looking for 7s to hit and I can't buy attacks or reroll at all. Eventually I do use up my 2 initials, but not before I kill, 5 Nihilators? Something?
Yeah, you killed a lot.
Yeah, he really performs above his class here. I'm pleased and impressed by him.
He's doing to the Nihilators what the Nihilators want to do to the Holloman.
Correct, yes.
Nayslayer charges, gets a kill.
Yeah, most of the Nayslayers just moved for positioning, but one of them was in a spot where it could charge, so they can be 5 inches away from their target after they charged it, which is pretty cool. Because they charged it at 2-inch melee and then back off 3. And that was the guy who was engaging the Rattler there. So this is another unit that it would have been nice to have Apparition on, because I could have dug just a little bit deeper into these unit Annihilators. But I'm still going to dig pretty deep, hopefully kill a couple of them. I consider the Attendant for Morghoul, one of the Escorts, as a target for these guys' shots. But I conclude that because I didn't apparate, I'm just a little bit out of her threat, out of the ability to shoot her. So instead, just try to clear the zone and wipe Nihilators. I'm not getting very much from clearing the zone right now, other than threatening some positioning. It is not yet a scoring turn. And a blocking the lane of one of the guys who was going to take a shot. And that's all the Hollow Man on the top there.
Yeah, so leaves me with 2 Nihilators. I did not make a single tough check.
Yeah. Cage Ranger drops to just advance over the wall.
Cage Ranger is actually kind of scary in this matchup once it gets a corpse. Because then it can Arcane Vortex my blind, which I really hate.
Yeah, it doesn't start with 1, because I'm not playing in Dark Menagerie. But I considered a line of play this turn that involved Boundless charging the Cage Ranger and having him just go really, really deep to kill 1 Nihilator just to get a corpse. but ultimately concluded that it would have put him too far out of position. So
Fair enough.
figure corpses will come to him eventually.
So this turn, I apparate the Nihilators up. I upkeep Mirage, and I drop Occultation. So Morghoul's sitting on 5. The plan involves trying to just do as much damage to Old Witch as possible this turn. Probably not going to kill her, and then just play the attrition game. So I'm going to use those last 2 Nihilators to kill as many Hullemen in the top zone as possible. Gonna put my heavies in a position where they won't just die to Nay Slayers. And I'm going to just jockey for position so that next turn I can deal with the Hullemen in the bottom zone. So, first things first, we're going to make sure we can get in with this Blackhide Wrastler. We're actually in without Rush, which means I can use Rage on the Blackhide to just pump as much damage out as possible. This blinded unit of Beast Handlers is a bit mopey, because they have to forfeit their action, but one of them is not blinded, so he's going to walk up and enrage the Blackhide. The other one's going to walk to just engage the Rattler, and the other ones are going to just get out of the cloud so they don't die when they take 1 point of damage for ending in it. So they don't do that.
Yeah. It's possible that there was a position I could have been where I had that 12 inches to the Archidon, but I didn't have the 8 to it for Curse of Shadows. I did not opt to cast Curse of Shadows, and probably I should have drawn that conclusion a little bit earlier in the turn and been a couple of inches back. That would have at least made you cast Rush, because I don't think I was anticipating casting Rage this turn.
Yeah.
But, I mean, pre-measuring the thing, and I had exactly as many tools to do it as you did.
So the Blind Walker is going to trundle on up and put Rites of Power up to become an Arc Node. Mm-hmm. And Old Witch is only Def 12. I'm going to cast Knight's Reflection with Morghoul through the Blind Walker to blind Old Witch, dropping her Def from 12 to 8, hopefully. I'm only needing a 6 to hit, but I do boost. I don't put Puppet Master on Morghoul, mostly just an order of operations issue. I just don't remember. But that's fine. Those Nihilators will probably appreciate it when they go to clear out those Hullemen.
You do feat here.
I do feat. Just for that very purpose. Give the Nihilators Acrobatics, Parry, Overtake. Hit the blind on Old Witch.
Only just. There was a 2 and a 1 there. We got excited.
Does 3 damage to the 4 on the Rites of Powered Blind Walker, and Morghoul takes D3 himself because Eilish is within 5 of the Old Witch. And then he moves up a bit just to keep his escorts in command. This escort is going to go blind the Rattler because it's out of control and won't be able to shake it.
I'm hoping with the 1 Fury on it, it'll just frenzy and shake it anyway.
And the other escort I'm pretty happy with behind the wall, because she means that if Old Witch wants to move up at all, she'll be blinded again the next turn, and it'll be hard to deal with, at the very least.
Yep.
I do get to blind that 1 Rattler in the top zone, and then I repo away, because I don't want to get hit. Beast Handlers go up, move into prodding range. They're also going to condition a Fury off of the Blind Walker, as well as medicate the damage he took.
Yeah, the interaction between a faction that has medicate and Rites of Power is pretty nice.
It's true.
Means that Blind Walker doesn't just kind of die late in the game.
Yeah. Also, the combination, even though he's only POW 14 base, with Rage and Enrage, he actually becomes a pretty decent hard hitter, even if he's only MAT 4, or 5, rather, which is solved pretty handily with Blind.
Yeah.
So the Shaman moves up and casts Rage on the Blackhide, so the Blackhide doesn't have to use that Fury. He charges for free because of prodding, and his Bite is POW 22, hitting on anything but double ones. So he hits.
Yep.
I also didn't Puppet Master the Blackhide. Oh well. Dice plus 3 does 12 damage on the first hit to the 2 of, I believe, a Rattler.
Yeah, I transfer it to the Rattler, who you did engage, so I did not get to make that counter.
Second claw hits dice even, rolls an 11.
I debate taking the 11 here, but ultimately decide I have to transfer it. Bit of an unfortunately timed spike, because this is on your worst attacks.
Yep. Hit again. This one's rolls completely average, does 7 damage at dice even. Bite attack at plus 3 does 12 damage on a first bot attack. So I'm hitting really hard with this Blackhide, which is the entire purpose of it in the list. Normally it'll kill heavies. Dub 1's on the damage roll there. Does 5 because it's still
more
plus
damage.
3.
Still, I'm in a bit of trouble here. You buy an attack, and
At plus 3, do 9 damage.
Yep, that unfortunately kills me. So camping 3 transfers, arm 19 was not quite enough. Lesson learned. With Rush rather than Rage, I think we would have been in a much better position.
For sure.
With Rush rather than Rage, that's 3 less damage on all of your attacks, or it's you cycle and you have two less attacks. So I definitely should have measured that and come up only close enough to put the blind on the Archidon.
Oh, in the background here while we talk, these Nihilators I decided are going to go anyway. Even Tim let me roll this out because I wanted to just show how brutal these guys actually are when they get into a unit.
Which they sure do.
Yeah. So the first one only kills 3. The second one kills a Nayslayer and will continue.
Once again, these guys really should have had Puppet Master.
Yep, I just didn't cast it because I got excited.
Now these are defense 12 infantry, which you're like, oh, well, defense 12, that's a real target of opportunity for them. But every other version of infantry in the game can be blinded and be -4 defense.
Yep.
So these guys are actually some of the more durable infantry against this list, and you still watched him blunder basically.
Yep.
9 of them?
A Nayslayer and 9 Hollowmen died to 2 Nihilators.
That's how they do. Yeah. And they can really just go in different directions and really be quite effective.
Yep.
I definitely camped inadequately here. Should have measured that distance a little bit more effectively, but that's War Machine sometimes. I mean, that's how the threat range game goes.
Yeah. And that's Old Witch 2 and Morghoul3.
Yeah, we're gonna chat a little bit just so that we don't create sort of a spoiler by having a video that's really, really short and gears up to a prompt assassination run.
Yeah.
So on that topic, I wanted to talk for a few moments about War Machine Weekend, which is an event we've got coming up in a week or so, and will have just happened when we release this video.
Yes.
I believe that's the intended schedule.
Uh-huh.
So Evan is playing SKORNE, and we're hoping does really well in the LCQ.
Yeah.
And I am playing Crix, and I'm playing in the Invitational. I'm thinking this, I mean, depending, of course, on how this goes, this will probably be the last event that I play Crix at. I mean, I'm still planning to record Crix for the channel, but I wanted to continue to diversify my portfolio and continue to play with other factions, so I'm probably going to hang up the Crix sprues for a bit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Unless the Black Fleet CID is amazing.
Oh, yeah, that might happen.
The Black Fleet CID seems really cool. And you can play the Devil Shadow Mutineers in that list, and I love the Devil Shadow Mutineers.
Best unit in the game.
They're my favorite. They're so cool.
So good.
Bring in Rock Bottom as a merc.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I played against, in Mark II at a tournament, I played against a Denny 2 player, Denny 3 player, who was playing the Devil Shadow Mutineers in that list. And
that sounds amazing.
Zura sure likes
Gravewind. Oh, Mortality 2.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So that's the thing I'm excited to do. I'm excited to show off some lists. We've kind of agreed that while we did early recording in the CID process, it just often moves too fast to really record CID videos.
Yeah, so when they did the GRYMKIN faction, it was a full month.
Yep.
And they did an update every week, so we could do a video every week and we could keep up.
Yep.
However, with the new way they're doing with theme lists, it's a 2-week cycle, and they don't guarantee it'll be updated on a consistent basis. So we just don't have time to put out a video before it changes.
Yeah.
So it's not really feasible to do all that much with the new methods for CID, until maybe Crucible Guard.
Possibly, yeah. What we might do, if folks are interested, and let us know in the comments if this is something you'd be excited about, is we might do some videos, like either Twitch, just like a live stream of Evan and I just goofing around and playing some of those games, or we might do a couple of just Facebook videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, something not with the sort of production that we normally put into our videos, but just goofing around and trying things out in lists and kind of maybe talking about our opinions.
For sure. I'd be totally down to play a game of Barney 2. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, once the new minion stuff comes out, I'm going to go on a bit of a Minions adventure for a while.
A Minions adventure for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're all excited about new things. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to stop being a Crix player, but I think I'm going to be a bit of a something else player for a while first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to buy Minions things because I can use them in my main faction anyway. Toot toot.
Are you gonna get a Dracodile?
I'm definitely gonna get a Dracodile.
Nice. All right. Well, folks, that's our episode for the week. Shorty but a goodie. I'll probably feature Old Witch a couple more times on the channel. I'm not sure that I've really scratched the witch itch, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we're now at the point with GRYMKIN that we can play second games with them.
Yep.
Get like that. I don't know. People wanted to see, I think, some other casters in the other theme list from what we played originally. So like probably an Old Witch 2 or Old Witch 3 rather in Dark Menagerie. We're definitely going to play her in Khador sooner rather than later.
Yep.
So those are things to look forward to coming down the pipeline.
All right, and we'll see you next Monday.